Ever heard of a woman who went from the stage to the throne, defied an emperor, and rewrote the laws of an empire? Today, we're diving deep into the life of one of history's most powerful and controversial women, Empress Theodora of the Byzantine Empire. Forget what you think you know about empresses who just sat looking pretty. Theodora was a force of nature, a political powerhouse, and a champion for the underdog. Her story is one of incredible transformation, rock courage, and a legacy that still echoes through the centuries. So, how did a woman from the lowest rungs of society climb to the very pinnacle of power and change the world forever? Let's find out. Born around the year 500, Theodora's early life was anything but royal. Her father was a bear keeper for the Hippodrome in Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire's entertainment. After his early death, her mother, an actress and dancer, was left to fend for her three daughters. In that era, actress was often a term used for performers of all kinds, and it wasn't a respected profession. From a young age, Theodora and her sisters were on the stage, and historical accounts, though often biased and hostile, suggest she lived a life that was common for women in her position. That was difficult and left her vulnerable. But Theodora was more than just a pretty face. She was intelligent, witty, and possessed an unbreakable will. It was these qualities that caught the eye of Justinian, the heir to the Byzantine throne. He was completely captivated by her. There was just one massive problem: a law that forbade men of senatorial rank from marrying actresses. For Justinian, this was unacceptable. He was so determined to make Theodora his wife that he had his uncle, the Emperor Justin, change the law itself. In 525, they were married, and when Justinian ascended to the throne in 527, Theodora was crowned empress alongside him. From the theater to the thronette was a rise that was absolutely unprecedented. But Theodora wasn't content to be a mere empress consort. She was Justinian's partner in every sense of the word. And one of her first and most profound acts as empress was to help those she had left behind. She never forgot the hardships faced by women in her former profession. So, what did she do? She established a convent unlike any other. It was called the Metanoia, which means repentance. This wasn't a place of punishment. It was a sanctuary. This convent, located on the Asian side of the Bosphorus, was a safe haven for former prostitutes who wanted to leave their past lives behind. In Theodora's time, these women had virtually no options. They were ostracized, exploited, and trapped. The Metanoia offered them a real choice. It provided them with shelter, food, and a supportive community where they could rebuild their lives with dignity and purpose. Theodora funded this project generously, ensuring it was a comfortable and respectable institution. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was a radical act of social reform. It showed the world that she believed in second chances and that every woman, regardless of her past, deserved compassion and an opportunity to start anew. It was a direct challenge to the rigid social hierarchy of the time, and it was pure Theodora. Her fight for women's rights didn't stop there. Theodora wielded her newfound power to fundamentally change the legal landscape for every woman in the Byzantine Empire. She worked closely with Justinian on his famous legal reforms, known as the Justinian Code, and her influence is undeniable. Before Theodora, the laws were heavily stacked against women. She championed legislation that gave women far greater rights in divorce. They could now initiate divorce on grounds of abuse and, crucially, retain their dowry and a portion of their husband's wealth, giving them financial independence instead of leaving them destitute. She also pushed for laws that allowed women to own and inherit property. This was revolutionary. It meant a woman could have her own wealth, her own assets, and a degree of economic power that was previously unimaginable. But perhaps her most personal and passionate legal battle was against forced prostitution. Having seen the horrors of this trade firsthand, Theodora made it illegal for anyone to force a woman into prostitution against her will. She even went after the pimps and brothel owners of Constantinople, buying the freedom of women who had been sold into this life. These weren't minor tweaks to the law. They were seismic shifts that dramatically improved the legal standing and personal safety of women throughout the empire. She used her power not for personal gain, but to lift up the most vulnerable. Now, let's talk about the event that cemented Theodora's legend. In the year 532, Constantinople erupted in flames. A protest that started in the Hippodrome between two rival chariot-racing factions, the Blues and the Greens, spiraled into a full-blown insurrection against the government. This was the Lacore riot, one of the most violent riots in the city's history. For 5 days, the city was a war zone. The mob burned down landmarks, including the original Hagia Sophia, and even crowned a new rival emperor. Justinian was terrified. His palace was surrounded. His generals were uncertain, and his advisors were all telling him the same thing: flee. The imperial ships were ready and waiting in the harbor. The plan was to escape the city and live to fight another day. Justinian was on the verge of agreeing. The empire was hanging by a thread. But then, Theodora stood up. In the midst of all this fear and panic, she delivered a speech that would go down in history. She looked at the shaken men round her and declared that this was no time for flight. She reminded them of the life they had, the power they held. She said she would not run. In the words of the historian Procopius, she famously stated that royalty is a good burial shroud. In other words, she would rather die an empress in her palace than live as a fugitive on the run. Her message was electrifying. She shamed the men who were ready to abandon their posts and ignited a fire of courage in Justinian. Her words completely changed the course of action. Inspired by her defiance, Justinian ordered his loyal generals, Belisarius and Mundus, to take action. They led their troops into the Hippodrome and brutally crushed the rebellion. Tens of thousands were killed, but the throne was saved. Justinian owed his crown, and possibly his life, to Theodora's unshakable resolve. She proved that she wasn't just an empress, she was a leader. Theodora was never just a passenger in Justinian's reign. She was a co-pilot, and sometimes she was charting her own course entirely. While Justinian handled many of the grand state affairs, Theodora operated in a world of intrigue and influence that was uniquely her own. She cultivated her own vast and highly effective intelligence network. She had spies and informants placed throughout the empire, from the highest levels of the court to the bustling streets of the cities. This network gave her an independent source of information, allowing her to understand the political crux, identify threats, and spot opportunities that even the emperor might miss. She didn't just gather information, she acted on it. Theodora frequently engaged in her own diplomacy. She corresponded with foreign leaders, ambassadors, and influential figures, often without Justinian's direct involvement. Her private chambers became a secondary center of power in the palace, a place where political deals were made and strategies were formed. This wasn't an act of betrayal against her husband. It was a demonstration of their unique political partnership. They might have had different approaches, but they were working towards the same goal: the strength and stability of the empire. Her ability to operate this parallel administration shows just how much trust Justinian placed in her, and how much power she truly commanded in her own right. Theodora's independence was on full display when it came to matters of religion. The Byzantine Empire was a deeply theological state, and religious disputes were a matter of life and death, with the power to tear the empire apart. The main controversy of the era revolved around the nature of Christ. The official, orthodox position, supported by Justinian, was that Christ had two natures, one divine and one human. However, a large and passionate group known as the Monophysites believed Christ had only one divine nature. This wasn't just a minor disagreement. It was seen as heresy by the state church, and Monophysites were often persecuted. This is where Theodora made her stand. She was a devout Christian, but her sympathies lay firmly with the Monophysites. While her husband was officially condemning their beliefs, Theodora was secretly and sometimes not so secretly protecting them. She used her influence and her network to provide shelter for persecuted Monophysite bishops and leaders, even hiding them within the confines of the imperial palace itself. She would intervene on their behalf, softening the blow of imperial edicts and working to find a compromise. This put her in direct opposition to her husband's official policy, an incredibly bold and risky move. It highlighted not only her strong personal convictions, but also her immense political clout. She was powerful enough to defy the emperor on a matter of state religion and get away with it. Her support for other Monophysites was a masterful balancing act that helped prevent a complete schism within the empire during her lifetime. Empress Theodora died in 548, likely from cancer. Justinian was heartbroken. He outlived her by nearly 2 decades, but never remarried. He continued to pass laws that she had championed and spoke of her as his most pious consort given to me by God. Her impact was immeasurable. She wasn't just a beautiful empress. She was a brilliant strategist, a compassionate reformer, and a woman of iron will who fundamentally reshaped the Byzantine Empire. She proved that power could be used for good, that a person's origins do not define their destiny, and that one voice, speaking with courage, can change the world. From the depths of society to the height of imperial power, Theodora's story is a timeless reminder of the power of resilience and the incredible mark one woman can leave on history. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed learning about the incredible Empress Theodora, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the hidden figures of history. Let me know in the comments which historical character you'd like to see me cover next. Until then, stay curious.